you may go to a psychologist for 4 sessions, right? I see clients for 2 to 4 sessions all the time. They'll come in, they'll do 4 sessions with me, and I'll never see them again. It's like they've come in, I've given them a set of skills that works for them. They've gone and practiced them, and they're like, you know what? I can work with those moving forward in my life. And the 10% that was dragging behind me is no longer dragging behind me. I'm now functioning better. Then there's the other spectrum where we know that there's people out there with like post-traumatic stress disorder that need long-term support and therapy because they've got, a major mental illness. I think if we can just eliminate a little bit of the stigma around, I'm going to see a psychologist, that means I must be mentally unwell.
Righto, what's going on? What's wrong?
Nightmare stuff. Been quoting for a week and a half. Big job. Computer died. Lost a lot.
Week and a half.
Disaster.
My God, isn't it backed up?
No.
What? You don't have it stored in the cloud?
Yeah, like I know what that is, mate.
The cloud.
Yeah, up there.
It is 2020. You've not heard about the cloud?
Nothing.
You need to get in touch with Simpro because I reckon there's plenty of businesses just like yours out there who just have got their head in the clouds. Our new podcast sponsor, Simpro, offers a solution to save businesses just like yours. It's a simple platform that allows tradies to take back control by managing and tracking inventory, resources, and billing across all of their jobs in one simple system.
That sounds good.
You reckon you can wrap your melon around that?
Yeah, bloody oath.
Well, if you're up for it, go and visit Simpro's website, www.simprogroup.com. Get your business in the cloud and get your head out of the clouds.
Let's kick her in the guts.
Well, we are kicked in the guts, and we're going. I'm taking my thongs off because we're getting comfortable here. And to welcome to the studio, Mr. Chris McIntyre for the latest episode of TradeMutt's 120 Grit, the podcast for the working class. Chris is a former QPS police officer, served 5 years with the QPS, current psychologist specialising in PTSD, and most interestingly to me is a big fan of, if anyone remembers the 2000 Sydney Olympics, Jumping Giants Time to Fly. Mate, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
How was that for an introduction?
Mate, that is the best intro.
Seamless.
Can you record that and send it to my work?
It's fucking recorded.
Good. I'd like that to be played every time I show up to Mates for Mates.
Mate, that can be your...
I can do it for you.
That can be your answering machine. This is who you've gotten through to. Oh, it's
the trick is you just got to listen to people. You just got to take it in and you just got to, find about their interests, like just get it going.
You need to do those boxing commentators. They just roll on in,
Yeah, what's his name? Bruce Buffer.
Mate, you stop flattering me. Come on. I'm not...
He's blushing.
I am not at Bruce Buffer's level.
Oh, I don't know. You got me going. I was like, I want to meet this bloke.
I actually got myself a little bit excited there as well, so I better calm down here.
Hey, this will be good. We're excited about this because I think you are the first psych we've had on the podcast.
Also the first ex-police officer.
That is true.
Right.
So we've had, 34 something episodes now. So,
oh, wow.
Mate, this is awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming. I mean, we only rang you 2 days ago and said, hey, we've got a podcast, want to be on it? And you were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And came from the GC, so really appreciate it.
I've got that kind of idea that if something comes up, you just go and do it.
The yes man.
Not too much.
Opportunities.
You don't think too much about those kind of situations. You go, you know what? If someone learns one thing from me talking about mental health today, then that one thing could get spread throughout a community.
Well, it's going to be spread through our community today, and it's going to be fantastic. We really appreciate your time. So
we've had an awesome pre-chat.
Yes,
we have. I was looking at it. I was like, shit.
Sorry about that.
In it.
No. That's what we're after.
Mate, we did the same thing with Glenn. It was like an hour and a half.
We should have been recording this whole bloody thing. My God.
All the back snippets.
Yeah. The only thing I did miss out was that you were a Gold Coast cop.
Yes.
I didn't say we specifically mentioned that he was a Gold Coast cop.
Yeah, because we're hardcore down there. Well, we were. Well, I was.
That and Tom Tate. You got a bit going on down there.
Jesus. Tom. We'd need another podcast to discuss Tom.
The Gold Coast.
We've chatted, we alluded to the fact that you, with your psychology currently, that you're a specialist in PTSD, and I'm sure we'll dive into a whole lot of that stuff. But, mate, what the hell is PTSD?
So I guess it's it's an experience that some people have. I think roughly about 4% of our community will experience it at any time, and about 12% of the, I guess, first responders community. So it obviously the full title is post-traumatic stress disorder. So it is disordered in nature. There's been a bit of a push to have the disorder part drop and just talk about it as post-traumatic stress.
It doesn't. It sounds. It gives it a bit of a weird spin, doesn't it?
Pushes it down a bit, sort of like.
I'm against that, because I think when if you look and reflect on your life, you could at least pick out one traumatic incident in your life. It could have been witnessing a car crash. It could have been, whatever, a bank robbery. If you're unlucky enough to be in the armed forces, it could have been Afghanistan or Iraq. But I think the important part is that when you develop PTSD, the disordered part actually represents that your functioning is no longer what it was prior to having that trauma. And so that's really key, because I may experience a traffic crash, but it doesn't affect my life at all. I continue on, I function, I'm fine, I go about my normal business. Not happy about the car crash, but everything else is normal. With PTSD, the functioning's the key. So you go from functioning at a certain level to no longer being able to do that.
But we're talking not physically being able to do a task, but more emotionally being able to cope with what you're having to do on a daily basis?
Yeah, definitely. So we talk, like in when I speak to my clients, I talk about window of tolerance. So the ability to tolerate day-to-day stress. And with PTSD, that gets wiped away. So, it could be as simple as, you have a altercation with someone, a verbal altercation with someone that's not aggressive in any nature, but your inability to tolerate means that it escalates. You've all seen those guys driving along the road that maybe have got cut off. Next minute, they've got a tyre iron out and they're smashing the windows in.
Yeah.
Similar in PTSD, we'll see that clients can't tolerate day-to-day stress. They can't cope with what they once would have taken for granted.
Is PTSD something that you can compare, like with other types of PTSD?
No, I'm very big on not comparing, because veterans in particular, the predominant community I work with, will say, oh, well, mine's not as bad as his. It's a statement I hear all the time. Oh, yeah, but mine's not as bad as his. And I bring that back because I don't think anyone should ever compare a trauma, because whether you see the car crash and I see it, our experiences will always be different, won't they?
It's like everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
But do you think that's one of the biggest hindrances to people, I suppose, understanding that what they might have gone through is PTSD? When you're talking about, someone who might have gone to Afghanistan and then someone who might have seen a car crash. You're not comparing apples for apples, but trauma is trauma.
Exactly. Yeah. So it doesn't matter it's more about what the individual experiences. So you're right, like someone going to Afghanistan and engaging in conflict in a wartime is different to someone seeing a car crash. And we shouldn't compare those two, because both have unique properties and unique experiences for the individual. And so when we start saying, oh yeah, but that trauma's worse, hang on a second, how do we measure trauma?
But that's an important point, because there's probably too many people out there that aren't seeking help due to the fact they're thinking that mine's not worth seeing someone for. You know what I mean?
We know that people in the past have broken their legs, like young children, have been restrained in a hospital environment, because that's the procedures, and we know that then they've gone on to develop PTSD-like symptoms from a broken leg. Yeah, so we know that it's not just because we might measure, that's the worst trauma I've ever seen because it was, the idea that it was an explosion or something like that, or a massive car crash. Yet the one that keeps replaying in the memory is actually something of what you would say, oh, but that's not as bad as that one.
Yeah.
But yet that one that you're actually dismissing is causing all of the problems.
So it's kind of, I suppose, we're not actually comparing the stimulus that is is the cause of the PTSD. What it actually is the psychological impact and what the physical occurrence is that actually causes that. It doesn't really matter. It's more about
that you've gone through it.
The emotional response to that. Yep. So it could be anything from Afghanistan, but it could be, I don't know, a tradie having a worksite accident, or it could be absolutely
100% agree.
Yeah.
A tradesman witnessing a worksite accident.
Which we have done and was horrendous.
Yeah, and I know that tradespeople, from my experience in the QPS, often experience horrific accidents because you're often using
gory power tools.
Well, yeah, I won't go near a power tool. That's one rule we have in my household. We don't let Chris touch power tools because that's PTSD if he survives waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And for my poor wife too. She hires someone every time. No skills. But I went to a worksite accident, and it involved a forklift as a police officer to investigate it. And that was a very serious accident. And it wouldn't surprise me if the individual involved in that accident went on to develop PTSD.
Yeah.
And also his colleagues that witnessed it.
How can it? Sorry, did I just cut you?
You're right.
How can it manifest? Like, how does it come out? Because like PTSD, it's I suppose it's a broad scope.
It covers a lot.
Yeah, like how can it manifest and come out in someone?
So there's definitely some criteria that we look at first. So we're looking at, there was the risk of threat to, or they've witnessed something to a family member around death or serious injury. What we know though, and what my experience is, and talking to the psychiatrists in the community that specialise, is it seems to, appear around a month to 3 months after the incident. Now, initially the psychiatrist will probably diagnose them with what we call acute stress disorder. And it may be that you've gone through something like what our close neighbours New Zealand went through with the Christchurch
massacre,
or the earthquakes as well, and also with our own community with the most recent fires. If you remember the fires prior to what we're experiencing,
isn't that weird? Because that's
been swept under the carpet,
huge. But then it leads me to think that there's probably going to be PTSD from what we're currently experiencing with COVID-19.
Potentially, yes. Particularly if you developed the particular illness and you're placed in ICU and you feel like you're going to die.
It's a lot of physical stress and strain on your body and an emotional roller coaster.
You're in a really serious. Well, you can't run away from it, so you're in a constant state of fight.
And what about for the families as well, of like loved ones of people who are going through that,
that's a big piece.
It.
Yeah.
And that can go on. You can go on to develop PTSD by witnessing a family member go through something such as that.
Yeah.
So we know that it doesn't, and there's no discrimination with PTSD, just like cancer and other ailments that we see in COVID-19. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean, that the strongest SAS bloke out there who's the elite soldier, is immune to it. It doesn't, I think, who's the guy that got the most highs?
Ben Robert Smith.
Yeah, exactly. And
bloody tower that bloke is. My God, he's huge.
Big unit.
Massive.
I met him.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Mate, big unit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I thought The Rock was big. Yeah. And I looked up and I was like, Jesus Christ, right, just stay calm.
Yeah.
Just pretend you're a Buddhist monk.
But talking about family members going through that off what their family members are going through. It's sort of like it happens a lot when members of families or friends, they worry about what's happening to someone else a lot.
Yes.
How do you how do you mitigate that? Because it happens a lot, you know what I mean? Even at the moment with the COVID stuff going on, like we're talking about like my wife's parents are out at Pittsworth and we haven't seen them since Christmas, and they're like, we're like, oh, we probably won't see them for another couple of months. And it's sort of like, and like Alana's really worried because they're older, and it's sort of like, like how do you sort of mitigate that in a situation like this?
Well, some of the things we've been doing with my clients for particular, I've really been big on upskilling, particularly these elderly clients with like technology, like our phones and stuff, so that you can FaceTime them regularly. Small things we've been doing with clients is like having FaceTime dinners.
Okay.
So phone's there. I know it's not the real thing, but it's a substitute to what you would normally do with your your parents. Or
Aren't we bloody lucky that we can do that too?
Oh, can you like Zoom, Skype?
The Zoom stuff has been awesome. Like there's even apps out there that you can host a house party together.
That camera's flashing.
What do you mean?
It's red lights flashing.
Which one?
Yours.
What does that mean?
I don't know. But I would check it.
No, I think we're good.
I don't think
What's
we're
a red
good.
light?
No,
mate?
we're still recording. We're going cranking along.
Is it I think the battery's about to go flat.
It's plugged in.
Keep talking.
Right, you guys keep going. I'll go get this. So we are super lucky to have Zoom and FaceTime and all of it right now, because once upon a time we didn't have that.
No.
Are you good? We plugged in?
FaceTime, just to FaceTime someone is as close to the real thing as possible, right?
It's awesome.
And so I use those kind of things like scheduling. So still, like, if you have friends that you go and have coffee with on a Friday, well, still have coffee with them on a Friday, but just do it via FaceTime. Like my wife the other night did wine night with her girlfriends, all via, I think they must have been using Zoom. And she said, I'm busy now, I'm having a wine. And I was like, yeah, right, I'm tapping out, I'm running.
I think that's a good point, to ensure that you're not sort of breaking what you would have been doing otherwise. Just fill it in with what you've got available.
Yeah, and do like for my kids, right, I said to them, you're going to go to school regardless, whether it's online or in face-to-face.
You'll be learning, mate.
Still happening. This ain't a holiday.
There's no getting out of school.
You're either going to school or you're working, so pick one.
Kai rolled in, that's my son, and he rolled in and said to, who did he say it to? It might have been, it was my brother, I think, someone, and he goes, it's all good, I'm not doing school for a while. And I overheard him. I said, hey, mate, my school's already got the online learning going. And he's like, what's online learning? I said, it's 9 to 5. It's longer. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, oh, yes, it is, mate.
And there's no little lunch.
Yeah. And his little face was like, oh.
And I'm bringing back the cane.
Yeah. So I've said to him, we build a structure straight away. That it's not military, but it's like, well, particularly early in the morning, what would a school do? They focus on maths and English first up because that's when you're freshest. Yeah. So I said to my kids, like the 2
Finish
weeks,
with art.
Yeah, finish with art and sport.
Yeah.
And I said to them, let's do this because you got to have a routine just as much as I need a routine because they're the same. They're little people.
Yeah.
And so he's been team apps, I think it's called, with his mates. So they all get on there and text message each other and they play Fortnite and all that other stuff together. But that's really important because they need structure just like we do, and we can model that every day by giving them the same structure day in, day out that they would have if they were going to school. They're just not going to school because otherwise their mental health will decline, just like ours will.
Kids crave discipline, right? They need it.
Structure, discipline, boundaries.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, some of me is concerned because some of the kids that go to school go there for protection.
That's another huge part.
And it sits in the back of my head going, I've got all these young people sitting at home going, school was the one safe place I had, and now you've taken it away from me.
Somewhere to get away.
Yeah. We know that domestic violence hotlines are going through the roof. Like they're just getting rung all the time because what was safe places aren't there anymore. Even the meals. Lots of kids go to school to get a meal. And that's not happening, is it?
That's devastating, isn't it? That is absolutely devastating.
So this particular situation we're facing on the surface is that we've got this really bad virus, right? And it's causing deaths. We know that. There's no, we don't need to go into debating over whether it's as real. I've heard some, what do you call them?
Conspiracy theories.
Those ones, yeah. I roll my eyes.
It's all right.
Because my brother actually works at the Gold Coast Hospital, helped set up the fever clinic, and they already were speaking about, because it's the same strain or version of SARS. It's just another virus that we're not immune to. So we don't need to debate that. And we've seen what, lax approaches in Italy, Spain and America result in. And yet our country...
No, they're all over it in America, aren't they?
Trump's got it sorted. He played that awesome
PowerPoint
PowerPoint presentation the other day about how awesome he was. You remember that? He just sat back and he was like, check this out.
Are they ready to open up the economy again? Ready to get back going?
He called himself a wartime president. I'm like, what war?
Mate, he's an absolute unit.
He's out of control. I've never met a bloke more... Like, he believes everything he says, though. So I don't know if he's delusional. I'm not sure. I can't comment. Yeah. But the way we've responded in this country has been excellent. We've had some mistakes, but you would expect in this situation...
no one's got a handbook on, pandemic and what to do.
Whether you like ScoMo or not, I'm not a political person. Being a psychologist, it's not something that we focus on. He keeps getting better each time he delivers it. And what I like
He's been baptised by fire, the big fella. He's had a bit on.
What I like most about him is he showed humanism.
Yeah.
You know, the faces that he shows. Like, he's strained. He's like, my country's under a siege from something I can't even see.
Yeah.
So going back to what I'm saying is we need to recognise that it's not just the virus here, but it's all of the fallout as a result.
Oh, there's a lot of flow-on effects, yeah.
It's, you know, the idea, think about how many incidental social interactions you have on a daily basis that you're now not having.
I know, and it feels really weird because, yeah, like I've just been going from
home
house
to work,
the office, home to the
Our
office.
life hasn't kind of almost like
I know,
changed.
but we're losers. That's the difference.
Yeah, but we're also doing our thing, and it's like.
But I mean, but even the other day. No, but the other day.
Damn, I didn't know you knew I was one too.
Damn. No, but the other day it was a Friday afternoon, and I was like, beauty. We'll just go down to bloody Brewdog, have a couple of pints, and
20-pack of wings.
20-pack of wings, gluten free, which are phenomenal. Shut.
And
it was a really weird feeling because it was sort of like I'd made it up in my head that this will be so much fun, and we can just go down there and just let the shackles off for an hour and a half. But then it was instantaneously taken away. I was like, oh, you can't do that.
What you said before, I want to go back to, because you were talking about Lance, worried about her parents out in Pittsworth and, you know, the disconnect. And there is Zoom and you can, you know, but she's also referring to, you know, they're older, there's health concerns.
Yeah.
You know, you're also detached. There's a real loss of control for
that
so
is
many
the
people.
big piece.
Massive loss of control. And you've got, I mean, you know, I'm not sure if to be talking about this, but, you know, one of our mates just lost his mother overseas in Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
And he can't get there. He can't be with the rest of his family. There's a significant loss of control for so many people. Where
helplessness.
Exactly. Helplessness. And it's like, God, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you... It's not just the lost jobs. It's not just the fear of getting sick, but it's... Other people have other lives to lead, and life is still going on.
Family are scattered all over the place. Yeah, I
don't expect you to have a solution here.
Answer?
Yeah,
excellent. No, I do have a solution, and it's one of the same things that I see in any client, and I tell them over and over again is that we move away from what we can't control to what we can control. Because that whole idea, okay, so I can't control something that's happening right now. Like, I have no control over COVID-19 and what it does, you know. What I do have control on is how I approach every day and how I approach how I'm feeling as well. So not hiding away from the fact that I might not be having a good day. You know, the idea that the Aussie idea, I know, to suck it up and move on. Such poor analogies to use for Australians, and that's why our mental health has been such a problem, is that we need to stop going this idea that we need to toughen up or we need to just, you know, suck it up and move on. When I'm doing stuff with clients, we speak really heavily around the idea that, you know, I had a client today and he said to me, I'm struggling and I'm not sure what to do. And I said, well, have you spoken to your partner? Oh, no, I don't want to burden her with the struggle that I've got. Okay, so we role-played that very thing, that you're going to go and speak to your partner and offload some of that struggle to her because she needs to know. And that very process in itself is actually therapeutic.
I think a big part of that, though, is that as a person, sometimes you haven't, and well, I find this as a bloke, that I need to sort of figure out why that is before I can express it.
That fixing
men. Like I need to work it out in my own head because I definitely see it with my wife and I. Like, my wife will tell me something, she doesn't have the answer to it. She's talking it out with me, right? And I'm trying to give her the answer. She doesn't want the answer. She just wants to sort of work through it. Whereas for me, I won't speak about anything until I do have the answer for it. If that makes sense. I don't know why that is. It's just sort of
what happens if you don't get the answer?
Well, I don't talk about it. You know what I mean?
And that's the very process.
Yeah.
So see the difference between what we expect from our women in the community compared to what we expect from ourselves. So we expect that your wife will come to you and you're 100% nailed the, put the right nail on
Hit
there.
the nail on the head.
Yeah, that one. That one.
Your wife does hire tradies, doesn't she?
If she listens to this, she's going to be like, damn right, that guy can't even paint.
She won't. She'll be having Zoom wines.
Yeah.
It's cool.
To cope with me. But you know how you said that she comes to you and she doesn't want to answer or a solution?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants to work it through with you. That's the very thing that you do with a therapist.
Yeah.
I don't give my clients answers. They ask me all the time, oh, what do you reckon I do here? And I'm like, well, what do you reckon you do? Because my job's not to provide you. I'm not an answer board. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm here to help you create the answers you need for yourself. And she's doing the right thing, right? She's coming to you and she knows that there's this problem and she wants to work it through with you and come to a solution that's going to work for her. And it can be just as simple as you sitting there and reflecting back to her. Okay, it sounds like you're having some troubles, or it sounds like that's challenging. And that very validation is what we do with, the Are You OK Day, right?
Yeah.
They talk about that. When a mate comes to you, regardless of what he brings to you, the first thing we don't want to do is offer solutions because that turns them away. Like if you walked into my therapy room tomorrow and you're like, I'm having problems with my wife, and I went, well, stop doing this. Do you reckon you'd come back? No, you wouldn't, would you?
It's bloody... So do you reckon... So what you just said is if you don't know the solution, you won't talk about something.
Well,
so
I mean, unless it's like, if it's something that's big, I do.
Yeah,
but if it's something
because we have, like you and I talk a lot.
Shoot the shit all the time. But what I'm saying is it's, how do I can't even think of an example, but it'd be something like...
you want to know that you know what you're talking about when, when something does come up.
No, but it's not that I want to know that I know what I'm talking about. It's that I'm sort of... I'm more comfortable explaining something to someone rather than trying to figure out what I'm thinking. If that makes sense. I'm like, I know what's sort of happening here.
So is this that is a common thing, like for guys particularly?
Blokes won't want to express how they're feeling.
Yeah.
It's that disconnect between I know there's something going on internally for me and I don't like it, but I'm not going to seem vulnerable by expressing it to my loved one or my partner or my mate. So therefore I'll try and resolve it internally. But often what happens when we get caught up in our thoughts?
Cyclone.
How well does that go for you? I think anyone who has been caught up in their thoughts before knows that I call it the rabbit hole. You come up, you could be sitting on the train, right? I use this example with my clients all the time because I catch the train to work. And a random thought pops into your head that has no relevance to what you're doing right now.
No need being there. Just rocked up.
It doesn't even have its place.
Yeah.
Hello.
And it happens all the time.
And you see it and you're like, all right, I'll entertain you. And before you know it, I miss my stop and I'm deep in depression and I'm like, oh my God, I knew that thought was right. And now I'm feeling like crap and then I've still got to go back to work because I've got off at the wrong station. That is what we call getting hooked on our thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
And then we run with it and that just creates that emotional storm. And so what we teach in one of the therapies that I do is that we learn to unhook from those thoughts. Now, one of those ways of unhooking would be actually talking it out with your partner.
Yeah.
Because when you become in that storm-like experience, the emotional storm, how rational can you be?
Well, it's hard because you just don't know what the fuck's going on.
We talked about this exact same thing 2 weeks ago with Oliver Crosley yesterday. And he was talking about the exact same thing with your thoughts. Like thoughts come into your head. Everyone has it. It happens to absolutely everyone, but there's a difference between letting those thoughts dictate your actions or sort of removing
how
yourself.
You're feeling.
Or sort of removing yourself and almost visualizing that thought and recognizing, no, this is just a thought. It doesn't have to control me or consume me or dictate what I do next. Yeah. I can just take that and put that aside and recognize that doesn't have to be real.
We call that cognitive diffusion. So one of the things that I'll do, like say, I'm stealing a bit of thunder from Russ Harris here, who's the guru of ACT, acceptance commitment therapy. We do naming our thoughts. So or thanking our mind. So say... he does the one where I'm a loser, pops into my head, and then he goes...
That's not us.
No.
Well, it is now because I've been told it. So I'm buggered now.
I've got someone that can help you. Not me, someone else.
How much time have they got?
Oh, look, plenty, I'd imagine. But almost saying, thanks mind, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
It's a way of diffusing and unhooking from that thought, because often what the brain is doing, it's trying to generate solutions to problems, which is exactly what you were talking about. The problem with that process is that sometimes the mind's solution isn't always helpful for us.
And it's probably not the right one.
Often, yeah. And it's not malicious or nasty in its approach. It's just that's how it works.
But that's all you know.
Yeah. And also, if you think about it, the mind is a protective measure, right? It wants to keep you safe. It's been doing that for, how did we outsmart lions? Because let's be honest, we can't fight lions, right? So we built things, we developed this, higher order thinking to develop safety. Now the lions are scared of us.
We built cages, we made zoos out of them, and we got
Joe Exotic.
blonde mullets, and made TV shows out of them.
But
Exactly.
But that, what you were saying, it's sort of, you name it and you push it aside. So, but when is it that you need to actually confront one of those? Like, when do you need, like,
that's CBT. So we move away from the acceptance and commitment therapy and move more towards cognitive behavior therapy, where we'd look at rewriting or reconstructing the thoughts.
And how do you differentiate it? Is it because one keeps continuously popping up and you can't diffuse it anymore? Or is it something's
different approaches for different people? Like, I've taught people those acceptance and commitment skills and they've never had to come back for therapy. They've moved on with their life. They've developed those skills. They can name them. They get better at unhooking from thoughts. They get better at diffusing in the situation. They're no longer controlled by their thoughts. But then I've got other clients that we've had to go into a different approach, like using, cognitive behavior therapy, or my brother uses schematic therapy. He's a psych as well. He would do things about rewriting core values, how you see yourself, the core of who you are, core constructs. Because it can be challenging at times. Like, if a client comes to me and one of the strong thoughts they have is that, there's some truth to it. When you have a negative thought about yourself, but there's
something
in
in
you
it.
believe it.
There is some truth to it.
Yeah.
That then requires a different level of intervention, because if there's truth to it, we're not going to try and dispute that, are we? Disputing the thought would be then trying to dispute the truth. And people aren't going to run with that.
Well, what are some of the varying? Because a lot of our listeners, what we're trying to inform them about is that it's sort of, you can see a psychologist or anyone for any sort of reason. It doesn't need to, it doesn't matter what it is. And it's sort of like, what are some of these thoughts that clients have sort of come to that's like really minimal, but then right to the top, but it's the same for either of them, if that makes sense? It's sort of like...
So like you're saying that they're experiencing an unhelpful style of thinking?
Yeah, but one might be really serious to one person and one might be really serious to the other person, but they're quite different in actually what they're thinking about, if that makes sense. One might be PTSD and one might just be they can't cross the road. You know what I mean?
Like, so they've got like a phobia.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's many different mental health presentations. I'm only really focused on anxiety, depression, and PTSD. I think with unhelpful thinking is what we talk about in psychology. Unhelpful thinking is present in all of those mental health conditions, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's PTSD, whether it's even like those eating disorders that I spoke to you about earlier, which I don't, I'm not versed in those. But with unhelpful thinking, what it is it's a pattern. If you think about what a thought and a feeling does for us, it influences our behaviour, doesn't it?
In a big way, yeah.
Yeah. So like if I go out to a party and I'm like, Jesus, I'm going to stuff up. I know I'm going to make a fool of myself. They're all going to laugh at me and no one likes me. Rah, rah, rah. I'm already setting myself up for this distressing experience, aren't I?
How do you counter it?
Well, I'd go and drink alcohol, wouldn't I? If I'm doing something unhelpful, right? I do the experiential avoidance. I get really drunk, and then I actually do stuff up
and act like a fuckwit.
and make myself. And then what happens later on? I go, I knew it. Now I've got evidence to support my initial fears. So the thing about psychology is what I say to clients is that we do constant exposure. So, okay, if you've got a fear of social gatherings, the only way we're going to overcome those social gatherings is by exposing you to that social gathering, regardless of how you're feeling and thinking in the time. But I'm going to give you some skills. I might give you dropping anchor, for example, or a grounding strategy where you can take that to the party and use it and not have to go and drink 30 of these.
What's one of those strategies? As like a...
Well, when we're distressed, if you think about what distress is, like you've heard in the media at the moment, the whole mindfulness, you've heard of that?
Yep.
Yeah, everyone's like mindful, man, like breath retraining. Have you heard of that too?
Yeah, mate.
Oh my God. Does my head in. Most of them don't even know what mindfulness is. Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
That's all right.
When we teach mindfulness in the clinical sense, obviously it's been adapted from Buddhism and the teachings from the East, but we've adapted it into a clinical approach. So when we're in distress, we're not mindful, we're not present. We've lost connection with reality. One of the simplest things that I do with clients, whether it's anxiety or PTSD, is teach them that skill where you're looking for 5 things you can see, 5 things that are touching you, and 5 things you can hear. Then I go 4 things, 3 things, 2 things, 1 things. Now, if you're still disconnected, you'd go 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we're using our senses, because often what happens internally isn't a representation of what's going on externally.
So it's just snapping someone out of it almost and taking their focus away from this introspective, negative thinking style and sort of drawing their attention to the physical and the real.
Yeah, where you are at.
Bird, tree, road, grass, wind.
Yep. So like if I'm sitting here right now and I start to feel distressed, if I go, right, I can see the camera, I can see you.
Loser.
Well, I don't use that language.
No, neither do we normally.
But instead of working in this potty, so we'll run with it.
I would just use nicer language. Beer, whatever it is. I know that my jeans are touching me. I can feel my shoes. I'm suddenly now starting to use my senses.
But then you've also
lost your train of thought.
You're not
I'm
thinking
back
about
present
it.
now. That can happen really quickly, or a client might need to run through it a couple of times. And with it, I don't expect them to then go and find 5 new things or 4 new things. It might be that I've seen the beer, your book, your hat, wallet, and this table. Now my 4 new things are the beer, your hat. Do you know what I mean? I'm grounding myself.
Yeah.
That's the simplest grounding strategy anyone can use.
So is this the same? Does this work for, say, the tradie who's working FIFO and he's in his donger at night and he's thinking, oh, my wife's at home, the kids are there, I don't know, our relationship isn't that strong. Oh my God, I wonder what's going on. I'm so scared. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or
am I doing the right thing?
Am I doing the right thing? Or is it for the guy who's, oh God, I don't know if I'm good enough to run this business. I don't think that I have the capacity. I'm a failure.
Or the job promote, like just a simple job promotion on a trade site. And am I good enough to do this?
Well, firstly, I'd want to teach them in therapy how to identify unhelpful thinking styles. So like that self-doubt, I think is quite normal. Remember how I said normalizing things and also actually accepting that you feel that way? Then I'd want to go into can you challenge those thoughts? Are you able to challenge them? You know what? No, I am running this building site because remember I ran that one the other week and I did really well with it or whatever it is, or you know what? I need to get on the phone and speak to my wife and ask her if this is working for us with me being a FIFO worker. Is it me being away and providing for the family valuable enough for me to continue doing this, or is it not? Or if you've already had that conversation and she said, no, I'm happy with this arrangement, then I need to, use those grounding strategies. For panic or anxiety, I use things like sensory modulation. So like I'll teach clients to like sour warheads. You ever had a sour warhead? You remember those bad boys?
Mate, back up Muttaburra mud skipper, swimming training. Have one of those.
Yeah.
5 cents? 5 cents a pop?
Knock your bloody lid off.
Yeah. Have one of those. Next time you're having a negative thought, you'll quickly forget about that negative thought. You snap yourself out of it.
So this is like almost kind of like shaking the rattle in front of a baby.
Yeah, distraction.
It's just like when you're getting carried away in your thoughts, identify those triggers, realize what it is that's happening, a thought, for what it is, and then kind of find a way to distract yourself from that.
Yeah.
It is interesting, isn't it, that we don't change as in what we're worrying about. Like it's just sort of, we worry about all sorts of random shit, but it's the same sort of, mechanisms to help it. It's just in a different sort of format. It's not a rattle anymore. It's just sort of like just sit there, chill out, think about what the fuck's going on around you. Yeah. It is interesting.
Grounding. And that's the key. Like I teach everyone grounding and then I use it myself. So because like any human, I'm susceptible to distress.
Well, this is what we wanted to really touch on in this podcast was that, you're a psychologist. You got your own psychologist, someone you speak to.
Definitely. like any profession, you've got a hierarchy, right? You've got in your profession, you'll have a hierarchy of tradespeople that are, more skilled or less skilled than you. And the same goes for psychology. So like I have, a clinical supervisor that's got many more years experience than me, that at the end of the day, I bring stuff to her because I know that she's going to guide me in the right direction to make decisions for my clients that are in their best interests. And so that forms part of the legislation to be a psychologist, right? You have to be willing to participate in supervision, which is going and seeing as a clinical supervisor who is more skilled than you. Then also, it's not, like when I became, before I became a psychologist, I'd seen a psychologist myself to know what it's like, the experience. There's nothing wrong with seeing a psychologist. It's not that, you don't have to go to a psychologist because you're unwell. All right? You may go to a psychologist for 4 sessions, right? I see clients for 2 to 4 sessions all the time. They'll come in, they'll do 4 sessions with me and I'll never see them again. It's like they've come in, I've given them a set of skills that works for them. They've gone and practiced them and they're like, you know what? I can work with those moving forward in my life. And the 10% that was dragging behind me is no longer dragging behind me. I'm now functioning better. Then there's the other spectrum where we know that there's people out there with like post-traumatic stress disorder that need long-term support and therapy because they've got, a major mental illness. I think if we can just eliminate a little bit of the stigma around, I'm going to see a psychologist, that means I must be mentally unwell.
Well, the interesting thing, but the interesting thing you were saying before that there's fucking bikies and shit that go and see psychologists. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, but fuck.
Some of them are, trying to get a good report for the magistrate.
Yeah, well, I suppose.
I was depressed my whole life.
But I mean,
ticking a box.
But there's those sorts of guys out there in society that are doing, they are investing their time into this. You know what I mean?
It honestly, it really is nothing. Like it's such a nothing thing. It's like we talked with, Dave Shillington who played for the Maroons, and we talked about this a lot.
Unit.
The big unit.
Hey, you played for your Titans for a while.
Hey, hang on a second. I'd just like to point out on this show that I do not support the Gold Coast Titans.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I follow the Brisbane Broncos.
That's all right.
Is that any better? We're just gonna edit that bit out. Yeah. No, just to make it sound like
Can I make it even worse? My son's a Melbourne Storms member.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, who's paying that membership?
Me.
Oh. Dad, coughing up.
Yeah, he's Cam Munster, Billy Slater, all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to see. Yeah. But Shillo's mate. I mean, Shillo does heaps. We had Shillo on our podcast.
Yeah, right.
And so
awesome.
he does heaps in the mental health space. For the NRL post footy career. Goes around, does a lot of talking, schools, all that sort of stuff. But he paints a pretty clear picture. He told his story of seeking, support from a psychologist, and it was Brad Fittler who encouraged him and recommended he goes and sees Brad Fittler's psychologist, which he did. Saw a direct correlation between the trajectory in his career after investing in his mental health. Best thing he ever did.
There you go.
But he dumbs it right down. He's like, seeing a psychologist, it's like seeing a personal trainer. Some people are morbidly obese, need to lose a shitload of weight, so they'll go and see a personal trainer.
Yep.
Others just need to lose 4 or 5 kilos, so they go see a personal trainer. Other people are just ultra fucking fit, and they see a personal trainer on a weekly basis to stay ultra fit, and it's just about staying sharp. And the correlation between it's so weird. It's like, people wouldn't see personal trainers if there was like, oh God, you're not going to try to lose weight, are you?
Hold on.
Hang on. What are
you're not going down to the gym to work out, are you?
You're not trying to get fit, are you? God, that's you'll have a heart attack.
Yeah. What do you mean you need to learn how to lift weights?
Yeah.
But I suppose just not dumbing it down, because that's kind of condescending, but it's like taking that sting out of what it actually means to just go and talk to someone to help process your thoughts, because fuck me, guys, we know how to let thoughts spin around in our head.
Well, even your inability to just go and talk to your partner and want to solve it internally.
Yeah.
That's culturally based.
But that's just the thing that I just do. But it's not, but the interesting thing is, it's when it is a big, like anything that's big, and I can't even think what a big thing is recently. No. I'll very easily speak to Derek about it.
Which is good. I'm glad you do.
Oh, shit.
We talk about absolutely everything.
Yeah. But I'd far easier speak to Dan about it, because I don't need, for some reason in my relationship, I feel as though I need to provide the answer. If that makes sense.
That's
like I'm trying. Like I need to be able to provide the answer for this and have it fully structured and understood. So,
but you want to be you want to also be. You're probably falling into your natural role as a leader as well.
Yeah, but
I think that probably comes into it. It's like you might feel
the
that.
idea that there's a bit of confusion around what masculinity looks like.
Definitely, 100%.
You know, there's a lot of, like, for men these days in particular, there's a lot of pressure to change the way that we have been in the past, right? There was the idea that you were, the breadwinner, right? Now, my wife is a far better breadwinner than I am, you know, and if we're going to be putting stuff up around the house, I'm getting her to come to the party because otherwise, you know, there's problems, right? But acceptance in that, if you think about any male that's doing well in their lives, there's generally a really strong female in their life at some point or consistently there. And it doesn't have to be a partner. It can be, you know, your sister, or it can be mum, or it can be somebody. But what I think we need to get better at doing is allowing women to have more control over the way we approach life and the way we, you know, talk about how we're feeling and the way that we, engage in our own internal struggles. Because they've been doing it a bit longer than us.
Yeah, you know, and it's like when I just said that to you then about, you know, you might want to be the leader, I'm thinking, who do I look at for leadership now? And like globally,
Jacinda.
There's no one better
than
Jacinda Ardern.
I wish she was a psychologist because I'd be seeing her.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I'd be just ringing her saying, "Hey, Jacinda, I'm struggling.
She's fucking great.
What do I do?" And she'd be like, "All right, look, I'm going to live Facebook feed you. Just chill, all right?
Yeah.
I just got to get a cup of tea in my pajamas." And do you know what I mean? Like, she's as human as they come.
That is the big point. Is she's real.
Yeah. And look,
and she's not trying to be anything else.
She's not
either.
trying to be fucking anyone else.
And will always, I call it the 20% rule. They're always looking to target somebody in their lives. So, you know, oh, she's crap or she's this. The fact is, when I listen to her, I actually feel connected. You know, and regardless of what her position is in politics, I feel as much, and I think that's what Scott's done really well recently, is his genuinism. And that's what a psychologist brings, right? If you think about Carl Rogers, who developed the humanistic theory, his core principles were empathy, or, you know, that unconditional positive regard, and genuinism. You know, so you're going to see a psychologist, right? Like, say you wanted to go and see a psychologist, you want that psychologist to come at you with that stuff. That, you know what? I don't really come to judge you. It's non-judgmental. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to work with you. I'll pull you up on your bad behaviours because that's what you want.
But I think the interesting point is, you're not, when people go to see a psych, they're not there to be lectured. You're not taking your fucking notebook and being, you know, hamstrung by it.
And if you're lecturing, like, you're not.
But I think people, again, I don't know, but I think there'd be a misconception. Sort of like, I'm going in here to be really roused on and fucking said, this is wrong, you know, do this, do that. It's sort of more, what are you here for? And sort of really progressing through it.
I want my client to feel that the space that we've got together is a unique space, and that there's no other relationship like a therapist and client relationship. There isn't. You can't pick any other relationship in the world that's as unique as that. And I want my client to come to me knowing that I'm not the lecturer. I don't do the whole, oh, you got to stop drinking beers. That's not good for you. Because they already know that. Most people are pretty switched on, right? Most people are pretty smart. Like,
people know what
people do know what's good for you.
I don't need to tell you. I don't need to tell you that 40 of these tonight probably going to cause you some issues.
Yeah,
fuck, that's my night ruined.
Right. You know this, right? What I need to do is listen to you and help you come to the. I call myself like a tour guide of the mind. Yeah. And I'm also the other one that Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you guys know Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
I do. I'm a bit of a Jordan Peterson fan.
Big fan
of the old. I've tried to reach out to him. I just, can I get you on Insta? I'll do a human flag for you, something. I'll do anything. I'll even do a human flag off some high cliff man if you just come on my Insta. So if he's listening, call me.
I don't think he's listening.
Jeez, it'd be good if he was.
Yeah. But
these idiots don't know what they're fucking talking about.
he's like, he's a psychologist. Jesus, I'm calling the ARPA guys.
Yeah.
No, he says in there, the therapist is the person that you want to have a conversation with that you're not ready to have with yourself yet. Something along those lines.
Sort of the halfway.
Yeah, so you're not ready to do that with yourself yet. So you come and see this therapist or this psychologist, and you develop the skills to then go and have those conversations with yourself. Yeah. And when he says that and delivers that lecture, you go, yeah, that's exactly what a psychologist is meant to do. We're literally meant to, as an elder would in the Aboriginal community, we're meant to help the person come to the resolution themselves, not develop the resolution for them.
Just a bit of guidance.
Yeah.
Just a bit of guidance.
But do you think the reason the individual needs to come up with themselves is because then it's validated instantaneously? It's sort of like, I've done this myself, rather than fuck, you told me this and this hasn't worked. Is that what?
Yeah, and I always say to my clients, we're a partnership, and I don't pretend to know more than you, because who knows most about your life other than your wife?
Yeah, well, I mean, fuck, no one is, no one's going to know more than yourself.
So then am I the be all and end all of your life? Do I know it?
Of course you wouldn't.
No. Yeah. So then you're the expert. So you come to me as the expert, and then I'm kind of the guy that helps you guide through that distress that you're experiencing.
You're more of a nav man. You're a nav man.
With a nice voice.
Yeah. They don't make nav mans anymore. We've all got iPhones.
What are they? I Apple iPlay. I'm on the
Bang, done, in.
Into it.
One thing I'm really sort of, with all this COVID stuff that's going on, fuck me.
I'm sick over it.
Well, I'm sick of the word unprecedented, that's for sure. Weird, definitely. I mean, it is what it is. But I just sort of am sitting back thinking, there's going to be some major silver linings to this thing.
Oh, 100%.
That people, we might just be starting to realise now, but I feel like collectively as a nation, as a world, globally, everyone is more vulnerable than they've ever been, all for the same reason.
Yep.
And it's almost like a bonding thing. It's like, fuck, where there's not
We're
too
in
much
this.
that differentiates all of us, and we're all facing the same battle here, and it all sucks the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's feeling it.
I think that's the thing.
And it's in my, time on this planet, it's the one time that I feel like the entire world has been unified by a common problem.
And you can relate to each other. And everyone can relate.
Yeah,
it's like, this is shit.
Everyone knows it sucks.
Yeah.
But it's like, this might just be an opportunity for people who have found it hard to reach out, seek help before.
Hopefully,
to do it, because everyone's in the same boat right now, and it does suck.
Well,
please, can we let this happen somehow?
I think it is. Yeah.
It's shitty. I'll give you that. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
Skype's working for me at home with my clients, but there's nothing like being in the office with my client and they're being there and we're doing the stuff together.
Yeah.
Like a guided meditation or something, or progressive muscle relaxation is better when we're there.
That second bit sounds good. What's muscle relaxation?
Progressive muscle relaxation.
Yeah.
One of my favourites. 1908 it was invented by a guy. I forget his name. He's a clinician, and he's working with clients with stress and anxiety. It's a fabulous skill. He then developed papers in 22 around it, and it's been used ever since in psychotherapy. You literally you can either start at the top or the bottom, and you move through each muscle group, contracting, relaxing, while sync to breath, and it's guided. So like I actually guide my clients through it. I mostly would use it with clients before sleep because it gets body prepared for sleep. But it's very effective because if you think about when you're tense, think about a moment in your life where you've been tense and stressed.
Today. I could use this right now because for the past 2 weeks, the tension that has been in my head that I haven't normally had, it's there. It exists. And I don't know why, but it's not like I was laying on the floor in our office today.
Dan's like, I'm having time out. I was like, I can see that, mate. You're
laying down here.
Yeah. So tonight, what I want you to do, get on your YouTube, type in progressive muscle relaxation, guided one. You want about a 10-minute one.
Can't I just call you?
Yeah, you can do that if you want to. Or just jump on a Fit As Dad, and I've got a guided one on there.
Oh, easy as.
Easy. And you just go through. I generally start at the top of the head. So like I'll do things like, forcing your eyes down closed, because thousands of muscles all through the head, and you work all the way down until you get to your feet. If you get the right guided one, right? Like I had this one that I did at a meditation school that I went to. She just had that voice. You know those chicks that have got the voice and
calming.
Yeah. And my wife and I were at this meditation school doing it, and I literally, I'm on a hard wooden floor on a yoga mat, and gone, passed out, sleeping.
That's a good result, though, isn't it? Like,
so
that's a good. Like, that's
Yeah,
if you were to fall asleep doing that, that's a good outcome.
For me, that's a great outcome.
Yeah.
We do it at Mates and Mates. We do trauma-informed yoga, which is different. It's only 4 moves in the yoga itself, and it's really about, it's restorative. So it's about restoring the body, because when we talk about PTSD, it's not just the mind that's been traumatized, it's the body, because the body's the one that went through the fight and flight or freeze. And this restorative yoga is literally meditation. We've just wrapped it up for the veterans out there. Because, you know, when you get I had a guy that was a commando, you know, like the hoorah kind of guy comes in, and he's like, he sat down and he's big unit, big strong dude, and he goes, I'm not doing any meditation shit. And I went, now you've challenged me. And I had him meditating. Mate, changed his life, because he went from that ball of stress to being able to teach his body again to relax.
Why do you think he came in with that mindset? It's like, I'm not fucking doing that, mate.
Well, because he's hoorah for a starters, and he's like, there's that whole psychologists, the fairies, and you know they don't know what's going on.
It's a defense mechanism, right? But it's not a defense mechanism in terms of, it's just the fear of the unknown.
No,
fear of the unknown.
But it's a vulnerability thing again.
That too. Yeah.
I'm not going to fucking do this, mate.
Yeah. I don't know what this is about. So fuck you.
And then when I got him doing it, he's like, Jesus, this is bloody good stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I generally.
But why do you think I've been telling you about it, mate?
I only give you good stuff. Like I don't go and just do, you know, the old snake oil down the road and give you a few, you know, oils and say you'll be right. Like this is clinically
Can you
researched.
get snake oil? Can you?
Just, you know,
I've been chasing some.
But this is something that sort of we see as well. It's like there's people that are massive supporters of what we're doing and the movement we're trying to make, but it's sort of we can't get them to take the next step.
That's
you know
that,
I mean?
that commitment
But
step.
I'm not doing as good of a job as I could be doing. Like I could be doing a better job myself. Like everyone can be doing a better job.
Everyone can be doing
right?
more.
It's not,
of course.
It's not that, you know, and it's I think it's important to recognise that it's not just, oh, yep, I've got this now and I'm good, I'm set. It's practicing.
No,
it's constantly
it's giving yourself the opportunity to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And be open and just say, fuck, okay, why not? I'll just go try this. I think that's the hardest bit, is just trying to getting someone to try it just once. You can try it once and not like it, that's fucking cool. But I've tried it.
Yeah.
The other bit is we talk a lot about what we consider ourselves to be trying to do or to be doing is making help-seeking behaviour a little more accessible, a little easier.
Yeah.
Trying to bring down those initial barriers to people sort of being able to talk about this stuff, you know. So it's like, you don't need to be...
You don't need to be climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah.
You just need to be able to go out and just buy...
But also you got to be open to it. Like you can't... You know, the whole horse to water, make it drink.
Of course.
Thing. Like, you can't ram this shit down people's throats, and that's definitely not what we're about.
Fuck no.
No. And I wouldn't do it in therapy either. Yeah. Like, if you come to me and say, I'm not going to do that, well, you know, I can't make you do it.
But they've come to you.
Yeah.
They have done that much.
When they walk through
that's a big step.
Yeah. When they walk through my door, now it's like that fish. Now I've just got to keep them on that line and reel them in. And once I get them in, and it comes back to me
Tighten up that drag, mate.
Yeah. I'm all right fishing, all right? I do actually, like
tighten that up.
But if I said to you, progressive muscle relaxation, I want you to do it, and I've never done it before, how confident are you in me?
Well, what choice have I got? If I'm open to doing it, then it's just, you've got to, you've just got to be vulnerable and just say, right, I'm going to give this a crack.
But if I go to you, I do this every night, and I'll show you it right now, and I start doing it, because I never let my client meditate in the room and me just sit there going, some kind of creep
watching
at him.
Close your eyes.
You're twitching too much.
Yeah.
I'm meditating with him.
Yeah.
I'm not in a deep meditation or anything like that. I'm still present, but I'm like, if I want to teach someone diaphragmatic breathing, I get up in all my clients will agree with me. I'll get up and lay down on the floor. I've got these origami boats that one of the other blokes made for me, because I don't do origami either.
Neither.
I'm pretty limited.
I can't even fold a paper fucking aeroplane. Let alone.
He made these massive little, like these really cool little boats that are like intricate and everything. Like I was like, how did you do that? Anyway, I put them on my belly, right? And I'll get down on the ground and go, what's a stormy sea look like when I'm breathing rapidly? Everyone on the boat's sick. What's a calm diaphragmatic breath look like? Oh, everyone's just riding the waves, And so I'll do demonstrations, and most psychs will do that. There's not a skill in my book that I use that I haven't tried on myself. When you go and do this particular trauma-based therapy that we get trained in, we actually will target one of our own traumas, because there's no one in this world that doesn't have trauma, like unless you've been living in a bubble, and then that becomes your trauma anyway.
But you're talking, right, the basic, sorry, do you want to...
Well, I'm just saying leading by example.
Yeah,
and that's what we're fucking trying to do, right?
But also, you're talking tool in a toolbox. Tool in a big toolbox of many tools, and as tradies, FIFO, rural and remote, working,
plenty of
whatever,
toolboxes.
There's also plenty of different tools that we use to get jobs done, and without the right tool, you can really struggle through, certain jobs. And fuck me, they make life easy when you get the right one.
Yeah. And that's what I give clients is, we don't have one or two tools. The one I showed you earlier, the five things you can see for, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. That's just one.
Yeah.
Like I have a whole, like dropping anchor, for example. I can't really demonstrate it right now, but that skill in itself I give to every client, because I haven't had a client turn around to me yet, touching wood, and say it doesn't work. So I've got one skill that every client gets, but then I adapt, because I might be like, well, I got a young guy and he doesn't really want to sit in lotus position meditating, but he's happy to practice mindfulness when he's in the gym. So he gets rid of his earphones. He only just focuses on the training.
But I think that's another important thing too. Like I was saying to my wife, actually driving to work this morning, I was like, I'm surprised, because there's so many people exercising now, which is fucking great. Which is so good.
It looks good, doesn't it?
It's unreal.
They're all running.
Yeah, no. Jesus. It's like the Truman Show. Eh? It's like a real world thing happening. And I said, but everyone's got earphones in.
Yeah, they're not mindful.
Yeah, I was like, fuck. I was like, because I can't remember the last time. Oh, that's right. When I was quitting smoking, I started playing AFL for Morningside. I was like, I'm going to fucking get fit. I'm going to quit smoking and I'm going to run. And
I didn't think he'd do it.
He did it.
When we were working on the tools together, like,
what position you playing?
Mate, I was playing a bit of wing. I was
left,
playing
right out.
Left, right out. Mate, I was playing in the pocket, forward pocket. It was fucking great. I loved it. Yeah, it's so much fun.
You could put he's like a whippet, this bloke. You put him anywhere, just keep running. Just keep on running.
Friday night, third grade, it's the best.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Pies? You still get the pies, the hot pies?
Mate, I can't. I'm gluten free.
Oh, jeez.
I couldn't even have the beers after the game. Oh. Nah, it was great. Yeah. But I was like, since I've got back into my routine, since the gym shut, I've been going for runs, and I haven't been taking my phone. I haven't had anything to listen to, and I've just really enjoyed that cathartic experience of just being able to be free and with my thoughts, and it's fucking great.
And your breath would be better.
Yeah, and I come back, and then I'm just like, my whole thing is, as soon as I leave the gate, I don't stop until I get back and hit the gate. I'm like, that's my thing. And then when I get back, then I'll get on my phone and figure out, because I always try and do a different route.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm like an adventure. If I go on an adventure, it doesn't seem like as much of a struggle, because if I've been on it before, I know how long it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll just go on an adventure through Bulimba or Hawthorne and stuff, and I'll come back and I'm like, fuck, I really want to know how far I've run. And, on average, it's about 8 to 9 Ks. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome. And not once in that, 45 minutes, half an hour, was I interrupted with anything. It was just me
doing your thing.
Yeah, but it's been really awesome.
I was talking about this with our work group chat today. I do a lot of writing for TradeMutt, and I was thinking about doing a piece on, coping with isolation, what people are doing, different activities to deal with the isolation. And man, like even myself personally, the things that people are doing at the moment, it's almost like going back in time.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting at home, like you've seen, like I've been on my back deck painting with my housemates and my missus.
And not to blow smoke up the proverbial arse, but it's actually pretty good
I've
painting.
never done it before, but we're eating good, everyone's cooking together. we're doing like Iris. She's doing one of our staff members. She's doing a 20-week challenge where over Zoom they're doing a different cuisine every night, or spoon carving.
Well, you can't.
Or
Social isolation. You're allowed to come around.
You can't come in.
But all sorts of different things. Royce sent through that article about there's in Melbourne, in Brunswick, there's a cellist who is a world-renowned cellist and a performer, and instead of traveling the world and performing at the moment, every Friday afternoon she goes out, on the street, and she's playing the cello.
Way.
And the neighbours are coming out, and just like everyone's watching social distancing. People are pulling up cars, and everyone's
love
just
it.
Our next door neighbours
down.
Our next door neighbour Tomo's in a band. He fucking had him around last Saturday. They were all dressed in tuxes, and they're out in the backyard, and they're all drumming. He's singing. It was awesome. That's fucking great.
I like it.
Yeah,
I think it's a bit of a connection and a change in the way that we've been living.
Huge way, and especially with social media. And I've said this to Dan in the last 3-4 weeks. There's been a massive shift in what social media is. I think it's been flipped on its head. Before it was really fake. This is what I've got. This is what I'm doing. Fuck, I'm awesome.
I've got a boat or whatever.
Yeah. Now it's been flipped on its head, and it's hey, I'm at home. I'm on a group chat with a heap of girls that I haven't seen, or blokes, and I'm,
or fuck jar sauce.
Yeah, fuck jar sauce. That's what I reckon.
That bloke's loose, isn't he?
Yeah, mate, we're getting him on the podcast.
He's
we're getting him on.
No, he's not.
Yeah, in October. That's a sneak peek. Yeah,
can you get him on my Insta? He's out of control. I love him.
But the thing with the
awesome.
I've seen so many Instagram stories of groups of girls, right, that would never put themselves out there of being in their pajamas and not having makeup on and fucking being at home. But all of a sudden they're all in it together and they communicate, and that's just really changed the landscape of how people are communicating.
No one sort of
gives a fuck.
Cares.
I know.
No one gives a shit. And it's good.
I care
like
because
it.
it's where it should be.
No, I don't mean you care. I mean no one cares what anyone else is doing like that. It's so good. It's like it's empowering, and that's what when going back to what I was saying before about silver linings coming out of this thing. We've seen a total shift in behaviour.
Oh, definitely.
And it's not for the worst. Like there is some weird stuff, like when you go down to the shops and you got to do that weird hop, skip and a jump past the person in the freezer aisle because you don't want to go. Don't you?
Don't breathe on my neck.
Meanwhile, you're rubbing shoulders with the shelf packer, and you're like, oh fuck, well, you don't even.
You've got it too.
It's there is that weirdness, and we can still treat people like humans. Like we can still.
The
have
other weirdness I find too is when the government says don't go to people's houses, and then they have like a house party. I would get a bit confused.
I'm not down. I'm not down with the fucking with the self isolation and I think the reason why Australia's doing pretty well now is because people for the most part have obeyed the
80%.
directives.
Yeah, it was the 80%.
There's always
worked.
There's always going to be the the outliers, and I suppose we're 1.5 meters apart here, so we're good, right?
Yeah,
we're good.
Yeah,
we're good. I've been in isolation for like 5 weeks, so I'm real good.
Same.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's interesting. It's a weird time. I don't hate it. I think it's gonna help a lot of people be more vulnerable. I think it is helping more people be more vulnerable because a lot of people are in shitty situations. And it's fucking about time we all start talking about our shitty situations together.
Exactly. If one thing can come out of it, it would be that more people, doesn't have to be everyone, but more people open up to each other and actually be a bit more real, not hide behind materialistic items that some people use to define
success.
Glorify the shitty situation.
I've got this car, so therefore I'm successful, yet I sit in my house loathing myself every night. And so therefore I better buy something else to put it on Instagram
but I think people have finally had a chance to stop.
Yeah.
Like fucking finally. You've got to stop and just fucking sit there and think about it. You know what I mean? You've been put in the naughty corner. Everyone's been put in the naughty corner, and they're going to sit there and think about it.
I had the weirdest thought, like this. It's not that.
This will be good.
No, but like driving.
This will be a clip.
Driving home last night, I was driving from work back home and went past BP that I always drive past, and petrol was 94.6.
Oh, how good is it?
What's it?
Well, I haven't filled up yet, but 94.6. The last time fuel was 94.6, from my memory, was pre-2000.
No, 2000 it was, I used to be able to fill up my Ford Laser.
I'm in Sydney. I'm talking Sydney.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know.
Gold Coast, it was 65 cents.
In 2000?
Yeah.
Fuck
I
me.
used to get from, because I lived on Rabina to Griffith TAFE.
Yeah.
Griffith Uni to do my bachelor degree.
Yeah.
I used to spend $20 to fill up the laser. Remember those old Ford lasers?
Mate, Mum used to drive one.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Why don't they make them anymore?
One time, Mum's Ford Laser got stole. Someone tried to break into it, and they stole the steering wheel. They couldn't steal the car, and so the mechanic had to come and drive it home with spanner, drive it. Anyway,
But you could easily do it, right?
Yeah,
because and
Phenomenal car.
yeah, but $20, and then I filled up the car tonight, 90 cents a litre.
insane.
90 cents.
Well,
a
I
litre.
had the thought. I thought I saw the fuel price last night when I was driving home, and I thought, bugger me. It just took me straight back. I can remember the service station in Burwood in Sydney. I always Mum used to work nights. She still does. I'd fill the car up. I'd go in and pay for it. And the Lebanese, service station attendant in Burwood, he'd always say, he'd always go. It was the weirdest flashback. He'd go, "How's your mum?" We go, "Good." And he'd go, "How's your mum?" "Good." "How's your mum?" "Good." "How's your mum?" "Good." "How's your bum?" And I'd be, "Oh, good." He goes, I said, "How's your bum?" Sucked in. and I just had the weirdest flashback to that time in my life where it took, he'd do it real quick, and I'd, good. Fuck, you got me, you bastard. Yeah.
Every time too,
Oh,
right?
mate. Well, after I cottoned onto it, it didn't, but it just, seeing that fuel price took me back to that time in my life, and I just thought, fuck, that's a nice memory.
Your mind is, I know.
So we're less consumed at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah,
Less
definitely.
consumed. Like we're not going to
We're seeing more.
buy things, aren't we?
We're seeing more.
Yeah.
We're just sort of, more in the moment rather than, because before we had Monday come around, and then Monday, like, what'd you get up to on the weekend? You'd be like, all this stuff going on. Tuesday, you'd be like, fuck, what am I getting up to this weekend? You had to plan for the week, and you had to get all your shit done. Then you go to the weekend, and it was just this repetitive cycle, and you were just fucking chasing weekend to weekend to week, and it was just, now it's sort of like, there's fucking nothing going on.
Nice
So
to
it's
slow
just,
down.
you just chill out.
What about just sitting on the couch and doing nothing for a couple of hours?
Well,
and
I'm
not
thinking-
feeling guilty about it.
I'm thinking, what am I painting this weekend? Don't know yet.
I walk from our house, take our dog for a walk with my wife, and go down and get the paper from a newsagent that we didn't even know was there until I realised it was on my run there a few weeks ago. I was like, there's a fucking newsagent not far from here. We should go down and get the paper. And it's
What do you mean, a hard copy?
Yeah, you can touch it.
What one have they got?
Well, they've got a couple of them.
Do they?
Yeah.
Like they different. Oh,
Courier
Jesus.
mail sucks.
No, I don't buy that. Sydney Morning Herald.
The courier mail was we used to do the courier mail test in the police. Is your actions going to end up on the front page of the courier mail?
Jeez, the courier
So
mail
don't,
is snot.
don't do it. And I was like, oh, Jesus.
But I suppose that's not a bad way to frame it. We haven't talked anything about, this has been a great yarn.
Yeah,
This has been a great yarn.
thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been quite, I can't even think. I guess-
Robust. I don't know where I pulled that word from.
No, it's had a lot of chatting about, like, this psych side is something we haven't really had on the podcast before, so it's been good to have that sort of insight.
We've always been a little bit hermity, like we won't necessarily put ourselves out there and talk about psychology.
And we've
talking
been
about
talking
this
about this recently
last week.
because with our charities just this week,
Yesterday.
was the first service we've been able to provide with our charity, with a psychologist to someone that's needed it. And we're just like, fuck, why aren't psychs putting themselves out there and talking about this shit, because it's at times social media, you can really pump this
Because
content
there's lots
out.
of good psychs out there. Like the psych community, there's, lots of psychologists out there. Hopefully some are listening right now that are doing really good work. The great thing about psychologists is they measure. They don't just go, you come in and just, have a chat and then they go. They measure change all the time. We're constantly looking for change because if you're going to, because some people fork out money to see a psychologist, don't they?
Oh, shit, yeah.
There's a gap or, a lot of mine's all bulk billed and things like that. But, you may go to pay to see a psychologist and that could be a lot of money for you. And then you want to know if you're getting something. And so the psychologists have been great at measuring that, and we know that they're succeeding. Like, you just look at the data that gets produced by Medicare and those things, because you have to record data for those funding models and things like that, and it clearly shows change. It's refreshing when a client comes in to see me and will go, I saw a psychologist 5 years ago or whatever for PTSD, and that was so helpful, and I use a lot of the things, but things have just gone downhill a bit and I need a bit of a top up or a bit of support for now.
Yeah.
And you go, well, all the groundwork was done by that psychologist already and they really helped you, and I'm just going to come in off the
back of that
and just support it a bit more. And I think, unfortunately, psychologists haven't always been good at promoting the good work they actually do.
Yeah, and that's what we spoke about.
It's a conversation we've had with. I've had this conversation with a couple of psychologists, and it's you're not. If someone has a good experience with you, there's no, if they want to leave you, a positive review, it's not really a done thing.
No, you can't, like, I couldn't get a website going. I couldn't do Fit as Dad and, as my website and say, client B, leave me a good review. It's just... It's part of the ethical guidelines that we have, and I understand why, because that could be seen as I'm then
self-promoting.
Yeah,
but I think
are you allowed to promote yourself as someone who as a psychologist? I specialise with PTSD.
Yeah, so I would say that's my area of interest with PTSD, but I wouldn't say I'm the leading psychologist in PTSD.
No, but you might be allowed to say, I specialise in PTSD, and I also like the Brisbane Broncos. And then maybe someone who came across you was like, oh shit, I like the Broncos. Maybe I can talk to this bloke about footy.
A little bit of normalisation I think is fine. And hence the reason I put on my profile that I am ex-police, because I think it's important. Because it's easy to find out that I'm ex-police. So I think it's important to be open and honest. And I don't do that for the sake of saying, oh, he's an ex-cop, he'll understand me, or rah.
No, it definitely, but it certainly does put you in a category. I think, and
people,
and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just,
I want to help that specific cohort, military and police.
For sure,
you got to have a very, you got to be mindful of what you're saying in terms of the self promotion. So rather than that, what we need to do is promote ourselves as a cohort. So coming forward and saying,
bringing everyone up together.
There's a whole group of psychologists out there that I know that are working on the Gold Coast and in Brisbane that are really doing good jobs for a lot of our vulnerable members of the community. And I can statistically prove that. That's how we need to promote ourselves, because I think the APRA, who is the kind of the body that regulates all allied health doctors, all that stuff, are doing that now, because if you look at the stats that are available, anyone can get them. It shows that when you go and see a psychologist between the 10 sessions of Medicare that people get per year, there's an improvement in depression, anxiety and stress from seeing the psychologist to the end.
Yeah.
And that's recorded. And we've shown that year after year, and we get better each year. Like, I know that I'm better now than I was last year.
Course.
Although COVID's made that a bit more the spanner in the works.
New challenge. Yep.
Yeah, but I know that when my client comes to me, I have the capacity and ability to give them skills and tools that will help them if they want it to. Obviously, it's got to, the client's got to come to the party a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, it's that kind of minefield around how do I promote myself without, being unethical.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I mean, I think it's probably reassuring to hear that there is a standard or a code of ethics that a profession does adhere to, because it certainly gives it a little bit more structure and a little bit more
trust.
Yeah, for sure.
And
it's
that's
not a self-promotion.
Remember at the start I said the biggest thing for me is the client trusts me and feels safe in my environment.
Yeah.
And there's that transparency that they know what I'm going to do. So that's therapy in itself. I've got no relationships in my life that are positive except for the relationship with my therapist, who I can trust and who's helping me.
Oh, it's a start.
Transparency is one of our key the pillars of our business for both TradeMutt and for TX, our charity. It's
key, right?
It's key to us. It's
Not
key
hiding.
to us as people. It's key to the way we operate, and it's key to building rapport and trust with anyone who we come across.
Yep.
And that to us is the single biggest thing. It's that you lose that and
you've got nothing, do you?
Yeah.
You've got no
Foundation
respect, you've got no credentials.
Yeah.
I could have all the degrees in the world sitting up here, but you don't trust me.
Yep.
Doesn't mean anything, does it?
Mate, I'd love to just, before we sort of wrap it up here, maybe a little bit about what you're doing with Mates for Mates.
Oh, I can. Yeah. Mates for Mates is so we're a charity. Charitable organisation. So we work with current and ex-serving members of the ADS, so the Navy, Army and Air Force. We have been around, I don't want to get this wrong because then marketing will kick my butt.
A while.
Let's go like a few years. I know it's more than 5, but it's less than 10.
Yeah, cool.
Is that cool?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, right. So it's somewhere in that. Yeah. Right. That's not that long.
No, not
as long
long
as what I would have thought.
No, and we came about from there was a deficit in the community for veterans around that transition. So the transition from the ADF into community back into civilian life. So with that kind of, we fill that gap there. And we have a number of services that we offer, obviously psychs. I think if you look across the country at all the veteran organisations, some veterans have found it challenging because they want to shoot the shit without clinical governance around it. Doesn't work. I've told people this over and over again. Talking about your traumas doesn't resolve your traumas. It's just life. You've got to actually work with someone who knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But we're probably the only service that offers real clinical support out of all of them. We've got psychologists, we've got clinical psychologists, we've got exercise physiologists, so you can come along and work on injuries, fitness, health, well-being. We have social connection, which you guys would know how important social connection is. I can't,
paramount.
Yeah. We're doing everything online at the moment. So like all our yoga, our coffee catch-ups, all that stuff's online. Yeah. It's all live Facebook.
Yeah.
And as I said to you guys earlier, we do those rehab adventure programs. So we've done things like Kokoda. They went to, where'd they go last year? Snowy Mountains. They do Snowy Mountain Horse Trek. There's a whole range of those that we do for veterans. We work with families as well. We linked in with the RSL, so heavily supported by the RSL, which is amazing because that gives us that big organisation support and enables us to do the jobs that we do. We've got great outcomes. I work with a number of veterans that constantly tell me how much they appreciate our organisation. You always get complaints. That's normal. That's life.
Nothing's ever going to be perfect.
It's the 80-20 model, right?
Yeah.
Just keep running with 80-20. That's, you're always working with 20% that'll be not happy regardless of what you do.
Awesome.
Doesn't matter.
Awesome.
We've been doing quite well with the COVID. We've adapted. So I'm still seeing all my clients via Skype, and if anyone's interested, just jump on Mates for Mates, the webpage. If you are a veteran, then you'll more than likely be eligible, because we target those veterans that have some form of injury, illness as a result of service, which is all of them, because they jump out of stuff and hit stuff and carry large packs on their back and roll and get shot at. And
all have scars, some visible, some invisible.
Exactly, PTSD, all that stuff. So pretty much I've maybe had one or two that haven't been eligible in my time while I've been there. That's who I've been working for almost over 2.5 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah, great time. And the thing is, when you work for an organisation, they're actually really supportive.
Yep.
Yeah, and you actually want to go to work.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
we have this conversation once a week. Geez, it sucks to go to work. We just fucking love what we do.
That's exactly right.
It's so good.
Yeah.
You want to be motivated to be at work, because we spend a large proportion of our lives at work, and you want to feel as if you're part of something.
Oh yeah.
And that's why the work's so valuable, right?
For sure.
How do you treat depression well? Get them working. The moment you get someone working and get them valued and be a member of a team again,
feel like they're contributing.
Yeah.
The
depression's not going to go away.
Yep.
But the symptoms are no longer severe.
For sure.
Love it, mate. I really appreciate your time. It was
anytime.
An awesome chat. It was
we didn't even
great.
Our pre-chat was we should talk a bit about Queensland Police Service.
You didn't even
emergency
touch on my
services.
traumas, did you?
None of it.
I didn't touch on any of it.
None of it.
It didn't even tell you about me, being like, who's a really cool cop? Like
Roger Rogerson.
No, who said Danny Glover?
No, not Danny Glover. No, Die Hard.
Oh, Bruce, John McClane.
You didn't even talk about my Bruce Willis experience. Isn't he that dude that was really dodgy on the underbelly?
Yeah.
Jesus.
He was. He also, who the fuck's going to call their kid that?
He
was doomed from the start.
I never even got a chance to tell you about the night I ran this kid down,
Oh, God.
So disappointing. Nah, it's
Next time.
There's plenty more episodes to come.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to come on.
Mate,
Awesome,
really appreciate it. Chris,
Thanks,
that was awesome.
thanks so much for your time, Chris.
No problems.
If anyone wants to reach out to you, know more about what you do, Fit as Dad on Instagram.
Yeah, it's easy to find. Just look for a guy doing human flags or holding a cute puppy.
Yeah.
The
Done, mate.
The puppy's the key, right?
Sausage dog. All right, mate. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
You're a
Good on
champion.
you, mate.